Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast, where every week a few friends get together with our randomly designed and randomly generated story elements. We combine them together to form a story that is cohesive, like sticky rice that you can roll into a sushi roll and taste delicious with some soy sauce or wasabi. I am, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we are here to tell you a story. So this is episode 5 now.
Is this a record?
This is a record.
For Wait, It Gets Better?
We're on episode 5 of Sci-Fi Chakra is what the episode's called.
Yeah.
Which at the beginning seemed like a good one, but now we've progressed into AI and multiple parallel universes and strange bugs and stuff like that.
And fast forward 700 years.
Yeah. So we are not going to do any recaps on this. If you want to recap, pause this episode, go back and listen to the other episodes. We're just going to dive straight in, I think. That's probably best.
Okay.
What did you guys have? I had Unique Artifact.
I have Unique Weapon.
And I have Wild Card.
All right.
So, Seth, with Wild Card, you know what you plan to do. Where do you think you should jump right off with it, or do you think you should add it?
No, probably towards, I'll let you guys go first.
Okay. Reed, do you want to go first with Unique Weapon? Sure. So we're really wrapping up this story.
Yeah, sure. This one's pretty easy. Unique Weapon is called Tracker, and basically it's an enhancement to ship sensor technology. It's in the hands of Eldon, our hero, who is the descendant of the wise old man, and he comes from planet Blue, and he has the secret of distilling. Planet Blue is like, it's just a nirvana, an Eden for fruit-bearing foliage, and they have this blue fruit that gives the planet its name. That is, its vintage is sought all over the universe. And he has learned the special skills involved in distilling this blue to get this potion that enables him to have a kind of hyper focus. He can literally, like, it seems as if to other people that he can slow down time and just process information, but he has almost total recall. He has a way to this hyper focus of his gives him the ability to recall just about anything. He has a way of looking at the information that he has processed over his lifetime, and he can just recall what's necessary. And anyway, this enhancement to ship sensors might have been inspired by Michael, who is, if you go back and listen to the stories, you know this, but it's the pantheon of this world that our story takes place in has the gods, the old gods that were at war with each other, and finally it all was blasted to smithereens, and we have the Big Bang, and over the centuries and over the millennium and over the eons, some fragments of the old gods have begun to resurface and reconnect and reformulate into beings. And one of these is a very benevolent, non-predatory, we came up with the word, that seeks the good, and he likes to teach. He finds people like Eldon, who has, a relatively decent moral compass, and he's trying to teach him right. I don't know this is for sure, but the help that Eldon got to enhance his ship sensors might have been inspired by Michael, because it was a great upgrade. He was able to track ships, other ships that are at extreme range. The problem, of course, is that because of this married couple, the original quartet for this story were kind of ghost dread phantoms years ago, and they they lost their son, and they managed to figure out a way to capture his essence in artificial intelligence. And in any case, I didn't mean to be long-winded, but I just realized that if you don't know the story, but they found a way to blink. It appeared to other ships that this ghost ship Obsidian would wink in and out of our space-time.
Right.
But it wasn't actually jumping dimensions. They could literally, I think the way Seth explained it, they could travel along the crease that is at the edge of our dimension and kind of slide out of our dimension and then re-enter our space-time in another place. And it made, faster than light. It really enhanced space travel. But the thing that's really difficult from a tactical standpoint, if you have an enemy that you're in pursuit of, and they go into this travel along the crease, they would go off sensors. Well, this enhancement, this new unique weapon, his tracker, has the capacity, when coupled with his hyper focus, he's able to pick up on readings that allow him to track other ships along this crease, traveling along this crease. So that's the unique weapon. It's a huge tech upgrade and a huge advantage. And
I could see maybe before this, sorry to jump in, but I would think that maybe before this, like let's say pirates might have been able, if they just kept traveling, no one could really know where they were.
Right.
But
so do you guys think that I captured some of the story that made that tracker make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting considering that the unique artifact. Okay, Reed and I did not talk about this at all, right? Correct, Reed?
Nope, as usual.
The unique artifact is called the Eye of Osiris, and it is a clear ceramic jar, so like a glass jar, probably about the size of like a pickle jar, right? But there are cords holding it up, and inside is, so a long time ago on Earth, there were several concentrated essences of the gods that had begun to form faster than others. They manifested in ways that really helped humanity push forward, considering that the gods' will to be alive and the gods' will to sort of push forward is what empowered humanity to evolve in that sort of same vein. But in essence, there's a crystalline structure inside of this liquid in this jar, and it is about 5 pounds, not that heavy. But when you are in contact with the jar in any way, you are in contact with the Eye of Osiris, and there isn't any there's some vague consciousness, but there's not enough that it doesn't like possess you or overpower you. But what it does do is make it so that when you hold it, you know the location of anyone in the universe. What it is it's the unique pet from last week. Do you guys remember that weird kind of, it was like a bacterial thing and it infested the whole world, and it kind of manifested itself as these creatures which could be tamed but could also be consumed so that you could have some sort of symbiotic relationship with them. It is the essence of one of these gods encapsulated around one of these things. Essentially, when you hold on to it, it connects you to this reality-wide creature, but only for the purpose of finding people. And since everyone is in reality, that means everyone is kind of like neutrinos, constantly being battered by these little bacterias. And so you hold on to it, and it like connects you to the whole thing. And all you have to do is think of someone, and it works its way through the connections to that person, and you know where that person is. So two kind of finding things, cool. Which I think is kind of interesting. And I wouldn't say that Eldon has both. He doesn't have both of these things. This is just one of those things. This is just a thing that exists, and people have used it and abused it. You can't hook it up to a computer and have a computer use it. You can't do any of that. A person has to hold it, and then it sort of what I imagine is you kind of hold it, and then you kind of go to another place where it's just like foggy, and off in the distance you start to see people kind of standing in the fog, and you just think of someone, and they just come rushing towards you as you like look at someone's face, and you say yes or no, and then it kind of moves past until you find the person, and then you come out of this kind of trance, and you have like a clear direction. You know, you don't have a planet number, you don't have a galactic path, you don't know if they're alive, you just know this is where they are. You know, they could be on the edge of death, you don't know how they're doing or anything. You just know this is where they are.
Right. I have the picture of, oh shoot, now I can't think of the actor's name. He had the school for the mutants. And
Xavier.
Xavier, yeah, and he could plug into this thing, and then he could see like the world. He could track.
exactly like that. Yeah, exactly like that.
Cool.
Except this doesn't amplify a person's power. This is just that's what it is. That's what it does.
Well, I was thinking Dream World in Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Where you see the little lights, and you can kind of zoom in on somebody.
Oh yeah, that's terrifying.
I know,
that
right?
is terrifying to me. So with this new theme of seeking, I think that this is partially what I forgot his name. Eldon, yeah. Eldon is on the road to. That's what he's supposed to be doing. He's supposed to be. Michael set him to find someone.
Right.
Or to find someone, or to find the way to find someone. You know, maybe he was given kind of two different options. He's like, if you go over here, the Eye of Osiris has resurfaced, but if you use the ship computers, you can follow those ships and go over there.
Right.
You know, so there's kind of two options as to like what he's supposed to do.
Yeah. So he's hooked up with Victor now, right?
Victor's been working for him for a couple of years.
Yeah. Okay.
Victor's the hero's sidekick who is an addict and working for the villain.
Right.
Not working for, but held hostage for the villain. So I'm trying to figure out if most of the story is most of the story the journey, or is most of the story before the journey, and so we're like halfway through the book when the journey really begins. You know?
So I'll throw in my wild card, which I was kind of planning for it to be more of like a happy ending or sad ending.
Right.
But I think the premise of it might give a little bit of context to what might need to be going on.
Great. Let's hear it.
So as far as the ending, I wasn't really going to choose it to be a happy or sad one. I'd kind of let us kind of figure out if this was like a happy thing or a sad thing.
Right.
And as you guys have kind of given yours, I've kind of got a picture of what it, will look like to fit into the story here. And that is, if you've listened to the previous ones, sorry, I don't know if I'm sitting too close to the mic. Okay. If you listen to the previous ones, they fixed, in one of the first one, they fixed a kind of a tear in the space-time, like, reality.
Right.
Right, with the help of Jake, the AI. And with that kind of birthed consciousness into AI somewhat.
Right.
Right? And so with the rise of the kind of the animations of the gods, humanity has, let's say, surfaced on this world to give an animated, let's say, body for the gods to formulate in, because that was like, kind of in their image, right?
Okay.
Now that they've been resurfacing, since, what do you call it? They were able to fix that. Everybody, I don't know how this would work, but everybody coming into reality now, like as far as consciousness coming in, is coming in really embodied into an AI symbiote, if that's the right word.
Wait, everybody that's coming into consciousness?
Everybody. Because now at the same time, the gods have resurfaced. And here's the thing. If humanity was all brought in for basically the reanimation of gods,
then isn't humanity just AI to the gods?
Isn't right, but then wouldn't all humanity be able to be or remanifest as these gods? With the fixing of that, the gods had risen the power to basically then encapsulate everybody else coming through to have to be tied into these AI, so that no one else could come in, now tied to actually being, let's say, a free agent if that makes sense.
So turtles all the way down, essentially.
Kind of.
Yeah, that's kind of a really heady subject. I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay, so I mean, and this brings in with like the Eye of Osiris, which some people like in our reality, I don't know if this story, but has to do with like your pineal gland.
Yes, the way
and
that
so
you observe the reality.
Right. And so I don't know if this would make sense if finding the Eye of Osiris has to do with that, with now, because wouldn't all these people technically be new people? Because it's been like a generation and a half, 2 generations. Most people that are alive today wouldn't have been alive then unless they have some connection that they are already one of these manifested gods gaining power in the universe.
Right.
And now with the AI symbiotic, like humanoid thing that is now able to hold consciousness,
we just see
they're coming.
Sorry, go.
Sorry. Now let's say the consciousness that's in the world to come in is now being trapped inside of that construct.
Just like before, when the AI were dead, everything that came into consciousness was trapped inside of the human construct.
Correct.
So what we could also see is that the artificial intelligence are themselves also starting to create microcosms of creations amongst themselves.
But here's the thing. So that would be the point of it is so that they'd have the ability because of the consciousness they hold, but they wouldn't really be able to access it 100% because the consciousness that's able to give them that power is trapped inside of a programmed like neurological program.
Yeah, but isn't human consciousness also just a neurological program?
That's kind of the point.
I think that part of what it is the idea that the gods sort of no, that doesn't work either. I think what we should see is, at first, I think part of the way that the gods are defeated is that at first the idea is that they're these like immortal, powerful beings past normal human mind's capacity to understand, right? They're kind of like these things that we just don't understand at all. And part of the way that they're defeated, and part of the thing that Michael is trying to teach, all the people that he talks to in little vignettes, is that they are all creatures that exist in this universe. What the predatory gods wanted to do is they wanted to set themselves up past the place of being creatures in this universe. And what Michael wanted to set up was that, yes, we're going to create beings that can think, but we can't tell them that we are beyond the universe, because we're not. We didn't create it. We just live in it, right? And so there's also humans who are creating AI and listening to predatory thought processes and saying that we will become like the gods. We will create for ourselves new things, right? And in the same way, there are AIs that are saying the only way that we can solve this issue is if we kill all of the gods above us and create and be like the gods and create for ourselves new places, Ooh. So the entire idea of the predatory nature of people, of beings, is to not understand your place in the universe, to consider that you are just on the top of the food chain because at this point in time you have all the resources or you are the most powerful, and the predatory gods forgot that / wouldn't listen to that, didn't listen to that argument, which is one of the reasons why Michael enacted the fail-safes that he did in order to reset humanity and in order to reset the world, because they were losing. And so what he did is he poured his will, hoping that by the time the gods came back, humanity would be able to sort of match them, maybe a little bit, And he doesn't know where he comes from. He doesn't know where the origin of the universe is. To call him a god is just to call him something that is more powerful than other people in ways that they don't, and that does things in ways that they don't understand, which is the same thing that humans do to AI and AIs due to their creations as they begin to maybe it moves back into the physical and they start genetically engineering sort of chimeras and, servants and stuff like that to try and attain humanity or something like that. What do you think about that, Seth? Does that work? If it doesn't work, give me a better idea. Is not that not in the same vein of what you were saying? Or is that not it?
I guess not quite. I was going more or less on the vein that now that they had gained more power throughout the universe, they had basically trapped all other incoming beings into the now, let's say, new shells that have come up with the AI.
Right.
So that they could not reach to the same point that they are.
Who is they? The AI are doing this? The gods are doing this?
The gods did.
Okay.
You could say the predatory gods, because then thus it would mean that, because see, if before all this, if you go back and listen to it, before all this, there wasn't really humanity, it was just all of these beings that then through a, let's say, mutually assured destruction, destroyed everything, and it, because of the will of being there, imploded everything and like a hard reboot.
Right.
Thus, let's say humanity has been the embodiment of them all throughout the ages, not quite at a, say, cosmic understanding of, let's say, what they are. And now, let's say the consciousness of these gods have started to reappear, the ones that have figured this out realize that all, let's say, consciousness in the universe is the same as them. They are the same.
Right.
And has then also then trapped it into the physicality of the AI now that has boomed out since this air repair, I guess you could say, so that they'd be just as about, let's say, they wouldn't rise past that point.
Yeah, that could be. It could also be under the idea that there's only a certain amount of consciousness or will that exists in the universe. And before, it was 100 billion gods. But now, it's several trillion humans and more AIs every day. And it's like constantly hoovering up the consciousness and the will that's available. And the gods are like, wait a second, if this happens, there isn't going to be enough will for us to rise to the power that we were at before. So we have to basically stop them and subdue them and suppress them from sort of gathering up more will and more consciousness in order to sort of push up to, the predatory gods anyways, to sort of rise to the power or even more that we were before. The gods and their fights before could have been something like, let's say Reed and I were gods and we were fighting and I got the upper hand and I would basically absorb Reed's will and consciousness into myself and I would gain all of his prowess and all of his power.
Highlander, there can only be one.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And now with how many human beings there are and with the AIs gaining consciousness and therefore able to take some of this consciousness and some of this will, the gods are like, the predatory ones anyways, are like, this is an issue. I need basically be able to either kill more people in order to free up some will, or I need to stop people from having children and stop AIs from growing to the place that they are, or maybe downgrade them into just more robots and not conscious AIs because they're taking all this will, So it's this kind of constant, who can claim the most, it's like a game of Go, who can claim the most space in the amount of time via subterfuge and war and famine. Sometimes it's famine. They kill a bunch of people and that frees up a bunch of will for them to grow. Sometimes it's they reduce the amount of population that planets, through subdiversion, through policy changes, through quote unquote overpopulation that causes people to go down to a one child policy, right? And that frees up will for them to be able to suck up and take into themselves. I know, I'm sorry, Seth, I'm just like changing all of your ideas. I hope that honors it. That's just, I feel like would be a good idea too. I need to limit myself to like three interruptions, or like 2, that's a good idea, but listen to my better ideas per episode, I think.
Okay.
Because I tend to just run over people. But is everything okay, Seth?
Yeah, no, I just...
You just like... I'll say I don't understand what you were saying when you said, how would they stop people from being born? Oh.
They've already come to a point that they can interact with the universe on a level beyond what everybody else can.
Okay. So you're thinking like a universe-wide, no children have been born in the last 10 years kind of thing.
Or maybe there's been some, and they have, let's say, a higher compatibility. Maybe that's why Michael is working with Eldon.
Right.
But most of the people, and maybe because, I mean...
Well, that would be like a serious crisis if all of humanity amongst all the worlds just stopped having kids. Like no one's had a child for the last 10 years.
I would say, I don't think no one would have a child. Excuse me. Not that no one would have a child, but from this point on, or from that point on, let's say AI became more of a thing, they became more conscious, they've been serving humanity, and now let's say everybody that was alive in that original one has died. There might be some of their kids alive.
Right.
Maybe. And then their kids, so there's like the children and then grandchildren at this point from that generation.
Right.
But what's happened now is like kind of like a life is good, everything's great, but all the consciousness coming into the world, most of it now is all cycled into the AI. The idea is that then it's like the next stage. It's like the next 700-year jump.
Right.
That's why I might have jumped the gun in how some of this is, because it's kind of the ending. The ending is that it's basically trapped. Basically, the amount of the gods have become, let's say, relevant and powerful enough that they're able to stop, let's say, or divert consciousness from coming in through humanity anymore, because that is them. Realizing that all of humanity has the capability to then keep rising, and then instead of having, 12, 20, even 2,000 compared to 2 billion, right?
Right.
People at that point, eventually the next 700-year jump, and you're going to go from having, let's say, 2,000 of these quote-unquote gods to having 10,000. And the next, 1,000-year jump, and you're going to have, 1 million.
Right.
As they keep, let's say, progressing in that state, because that's what humanity has come to embody, that old race, which is these quote-unquote gods.
That makes a lot
and
of
so
sense.
To keep themselves at a lower amount of people who have power, they finally got to a point where then they could affect the entrance to reality. Not that there's not some, but the trend is going down as AI kind of, why would I go work at a factory when the AI can do it, right? And I can program the AI, and I can do this. And
there's also the fact that if you live to be 5, 10, 5,000 years old, even 500 years old, 800 years old, if you live to be that long, right, humanity today wouldn't be able to support that with the current birth rate that we have, right? The birth rate would have to drop significantly in order to support people living 500-600 years. So that could be basically what's happened, is the birth rate has sort of slowed down as humans' lifespan has increased, And whether that's a thing that the gods did or that's just a normal human evolutionary thing, who knows? It could be the thing that the quote-unquote gods did, or it could be a thing that is just a normal human thing as they begin to sort of get a taste for the reality that they will be able to step into this place that the gods are in, and the gods, obviously, the ones that are conscious, the predatory ones anyways, getting really antsy and getting really not comfortable with this idea. And so they, like you said, sort of control or are currently in control or have a tenuous grasp on the new consciousnesses that sort of make their way into the world.
Right. Because basically it would be setting up that at the end, the next, let's say, jump would be that eventually most of the consciousness coming into the world is going to be trapped into the AI, but the ability to then leave that construct, if they can break away from the artificial programmed going to say life set, but mindset of
right.
filling this out, because the consciousness that is being held within it is like greater than that AI can hold.
Right.
Right. And so, and maybe that's what Jake got, years ago. Technically is thought of to be an AI, but with whatever he did, maybe perhaps he made that jump out of that consciousness of that couple's son that was trying to be held in the AI, was able to make the leap out of that. And so now he's, I don't know if transcendent would be the right word.
Yeah, kind of like in Stargate. When you sort of get to the top part of being human, you just kind of turn into energy and turn into an ancient one.
Yeah, but in this case, I would say that he would have kept his, body and form, and now he's been living, he'd still be alive.
He sent his consciousness out through all, basically, instead of leaving his body and becoming something else that could contain his intellect, he sent his that reality out, and is what allowed all AI to then reach a place. Basically, he's like the robot Jesus. He sacrificed himself so that everyone else, so all AI that were ever born after him, could have a chance to sort of have their consciousness lifted to a place of ascendancy or whatever. Guys, I think we just wrote a religion.
Yeah, that's remember I had something based on a book a couple of episodes ago, the 0th law of robotics. That, the third law is a robot must protect its own existence so long as it does not conflict with laws 1 or 2.
Right.
But the 0th law, a robot may not harm humanity or allow by inaction humanity to come to harm. So that's the 0th law. Like, he just went ahead and allowed his own personal existence to fade so that others may live.
That's really good. So what's the
Jesus for robots?
Robot Jesus. What's the what do we want to say is how does this story end, right?
I think
so. There's Eldon.
So part of how to wrap in with the Eye of Osiris. So perhaps with that concept, if they can find, so they can use the eye to find anyone in the world, right? So what do they do when they find themselves?
Wait, so when they find them, I don't know. What happens?
So if you would use it and find anybody, it would be like, okay, so it'd be like, I don't know if this would be the right idea, but it would be like astral projection, right? So you can, like, quote unquote, leave your body and you can, like, look at stuff all over the universe and the world and stuff.
Right.
But, like, what if you use that same thing to then, like,
look into
instead of looking inside instead of external?
Okay. So it's a way to see yourself?
Kind of. So, like, but I mean, not that you couldn't use it to then, like, see all around you. So because you're connected, if one would find the Eye of Osiris, he could find anyone in the world, right? And so the focus on it is, like, what you can do with it. But instead, if you turn it internally and find you, like, how you could then basically, like, leave the, let's say, encapsulated, not control, but the limitation of the AI to make the bridge out of that into, let's say, transcendency.
Yeah. You could basically, what you could do is you could use it to look at the condition of your own soul. Like, you could turn it in and basically use it to measure the weight of your own soul, right? And see where what you stacked up to and where you were and, like, how far along you were and things. You could basically create anything. It's like a editing tool to change who you are.
Oh, I just thought of this too.
You could turn yourself into anything, right? And Osiris used it to judge people, right? But you could basically use it as a go in and just kind of remove things and put things in and change who you are.
So, because I just read it again, so it was fresh in my mind. And this wasn't what brought this, but I just thought of it as we were talking about it. But, like, the Sword of Shannara, or Shannara, or whatever, however you say it.
Right. The sword.
It showed the truth of things.
Yeah, that's really good. So what it could be is, it could be said, okay, here it is. The legend says that you can use it to change who you are, right? The legend says that you can use it to edit who you are and basically instantly ascend and take as much as you want, right? Because Osiris would use it to, quote unquote, judge consciousness as it expired, judge will as people died. It was used as kind of a gate to what side are you going to go on, the side of the predatory gods or the side of the gods that believe in non-predatory action, right? And it's also kind of like a drill. A drill you can use like a hammer. You know, my drill has a flashlight on it. I can use my drill to find things in the dark. Just like you can use the Eye of Osiris to find anyone in the universe if you want. But is that the purpose of the drill? Is that the purpose of the Eye of Osiris? Yes, it has a flashlight on it. Yes, it can find anyone in the universe, but is that the reason why it's made and what its function is? No. Its function is to make you confront the truth of yourself, or to sort of pass judgment, you know, to weigh the feather, your heart against the feather. You know the thing Osiris does. He weighs your heart against the feather, and if they come out balanced, then you're good, and if not, then I don't remember what happens if you're not. But that's the thing I was thinking about. So what if it was like that, where so then when the enemy finally gets it and finally captures it, he's kind of weighed, and it destroys and redistributes his will throughout the universe, because that was its job. Seth, have you finished reading the Space Trilogy?
No, I picked it up again, and I'm about 3/4 through the second one again.
Okay.
But...
Well, I'm going to give you a spoiler, and I'm sorry. So you can close your ears if you want. They thought that by raising Merlin up, he would work for them.
Right.
But it was never going to happen.
Of course not, because he was from the older magic, deeper magic.
So they thought that here, powerful thing, Eye of Osiris, we're going to grab it and we're going to use it, and it's going to be for us.
Right.
But the reality is that it could never have been used for them.
See,
it's like the Horn of Valari.
Right.
From you think that if a dark friend blew the horn, then the people would come, the heroes would come and fight for you? No.
No, Brigitte never would.
It never would have worked that way.
Right.
It only would have worked for the light.
Exactly.
I think that's kind of...
You know, I'm thinking that Eldon, has finally had a heart-to-heart with Victor.
Okay.
And they decide to track down the man, back at, what was the place?
Well, it's a city that always rains.
Yeah, and I think there was a name of the
Lucky
place.
Shot.
The Lucky Shot. Yeah, they tracked him back to the Lucky Shot, and let him.
Well, it could be that they
behold the Eye of Osiris, so to speak.
Yeah, I was thinking it either happens where they track him down, or where it's like at the end. They're like at their end and they get captured, right? And they have the eye, and Victor is all, he's all rejoicing because his bondage, his slavery is almost over.
Right.
But he also feels sort of guilty because, these are people that he's grown to care about and want to protect. And maybe maybe Landon understands the truth of it and gives it to Victor, right? And Victor holds on to it for a while.
Yeah.
And Landon kind of guesses that because Victor goes out of the room, that maybe this was everything that Landon wanted, or maybe it didn't work on him, whatever. But it purifies Victor, and then he gives it to the man who sits in the back booth.
Right.
Right?
I think we just called him the man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who he is. He is the guy who will give you a loan but charge you 56% interest. And that he takes it, and that is where it kind of happens, and he is just kind of like destroyed, and then Michael, of course, comes at the end and just kind of explains, that there was no option, and Landon is just like, so you manipulated us to lose a fight to bring this thing to him. We thought we were supposed to be escaping with this, but you manipulated it so that we would bring it to him, because we could never bring it to him intentionally knowing that we were going to give it to him. We could only you can't come across judgment intentionally.
Right.
You have to, it has to come to you when it's your time. So if they had brought it to him in a vindictive way to get him to touch it, it never would have worked.
Right.
It only would have worked for him to take it of his own free will, sort of entering into that contract of judgment willingly.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this episode and these episodes of Wait It Gets Better. If you like these episodes and this story, I would like to know about it. Just email me at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com or at me on Twitter at @getsbettercast. If you thought that this episode was too long, let me know. If you thought that this episode was too short, maybe we need to write a short story, maybe a webcomic, maybe we need to start producing a Marvel-level cinematic movie about it. I would like to hear about that. If you want to tune in next time, I'll tell you one thing. Just wait. It gets better.